Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little weird today.
A little different.
Yeah, usually I'm sitting here with a whole stack of academic journals, or we're parsing through some really dense investigative reporting. Today, I have a single page in front of me.
And not even a dense page at that. It's a transcript from a podcast called the Easy English Podcast.
Right, which for anyone who doesn't know is,
Right.
well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's audio for people learning English. In simple vocabulary, slow pacing, very literal. The episode is called The Illusion of Tomorrow, and it's based on this little story, Don't Waste Your Life. And I have to be honest, when you first sent this over, I thought you were joking.
Why is that? Because it's too simple.
Yeah. I mean, we're used to complexity here. This thing reads like a children's book. Sammy wakes up. Sammy goes to work. It felt like I was back in first grade. But you insisted there was something deeper.
I did. And I still stand by that. In fact, I'd argue that because it's designed for language learners, it actually strips away all the places we usually hide.
What do you mean hide?
Well, when you look at complex philosophy or, high literature, the language itself can be a labyrinth. You can get lost in all the nuance and completely miss the point. But here, the language is so stripped down that the point is just naked, and it's a little uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is definitely the right word, because once I got past that see Jane run style of the sentences, I realized this story wasn't really teaching me English. It was psychoanalyzing me.
And that's the mission of this source, right? It's masquerading as a vocabulary lesson, but it's actually a meditation on the human condition, specifically the trap of procrastination. It's a mirror.
It literally tells you to treat it like a mirror. Before the story even starts, there's this preamble. The narrator says, the English is simple, the message is powerful.
Sounds like a fortune cookie.
It does, but then they give these instructions. Relax. Listen carefully. Think about your own life.
And that third instruction is the key. Think about your own life. It's breaking the fourth wall immediately. Usually a story asks you to get lost in its world. Imagine you are a wizard or whatever. This one says, no, stay right here. Look at yourself.
So I follow the instructions. I thought about my life.
Right.
And then they introduced me to the protagonist, this guy named Sammy. And I got to say, Sammy is, he's boring.
He's aggressively normal.
The text introduces him with zero flair. It's not Sammy, the dashing architect, or Sammy, the struggling artist. It's just Sammy, and then it just lists his routine.
And that routine is where the simple English style really starts to feel like a stylistic choice, not just a constraint. It creates this rhythm.
Oh, a mechanical rhythm.
Exactly.
It really does. Sammy wakes up every morning at the same time. He goes to work. He comes home. He eats dinner.
It's so staccato. There are no adjectives. There's no joy in those sentences. It's just function, input, output, wake, work, eat. It captures that feeling of being on autopilot perfectly.
But isn't that just life? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but most of us have schedules. We wake up, we go to work. Is the text implying that having a job and a routine is inherently tragic?
No, I don't think routine is the tragedy. The tragedy is the absence of intent. The text isn't critiquing the work. It's critiquing the spaces in between. Look what happens next. The routine finishes. He eats dinner. The obligations of the day are done.
Right. This is the moment where life is supposed to happen.
Yes. And what did the text say he does?
He scrolls on his phone, then he goes to sleep.
And that's the line that just twists the knife.
Okay, but again, I have to push back a little. Everyone scrolls. I scrolled for 20 minutes before we started this. Is it really fair to frame scrolling on a phone as this huge existential failure?
Yeah.
It feels a bit judgmental.
I think it feels judgmental because it's accurate, but look at the context. The story doesn't say he calls a friend. It doesn't say he reads a book.
Or gazes out the window.
No, it says he scrolls and then he sleeps. The scrolling is the bridge.
The bridge to unconsciousness.
Exactly. It's the anesthesia. The author includes this specific detail. And remember, in a short text for learners, every single word is expensive. Every word matters to show that Sammy isn't actually living. He's operating a machine. He powers down at work, powers up the phone to numb the brain, and then powers down to sleep.
So the scrolling isn't leisure. It's a way to avoid being alone with his own thoughts.
That's it. And the text immediately follows that up with the sentence. Every day feels the same.
That's the diagnosis.
It's the diagnosis. That is the direct consequence of the scrolling. When you live on autopilot, when you numb that transition between work and sleep, your brain stops laying down new memories. There's no novelty. So the days just blur together into one long gray smear.
That's actually terrifying.
It should be.
But here's the part that got me. Sammy isn't stupid. He's not just a robot. He knows he's stuck. The source gives us a little look inside his head. He has this internal monologue where he acknowledges the loop is bad.
Right. He isn't happy, he's dissatisfied, but he has a coping mechanism.
Tomorrow.
The great concept of tomorrow.
The text lists 3 specific things he promises himself. And the first one is, I will learn English tomorrow.
Which is just brilliant metafiction.
Yeah, let's pause on that. This is an easy English podcast. The person listening is, right now, learning English. But the character in the story is putting it off.
It creates this incredible tension. The listener is winning, Sammy is losing. By the very act of pressing play, the listener has already done the one thing Sammy refuses to do.
So it validates the audience.
It validates them while also warning them. It's saying, look, don't stop now or you'll turn into him.
Sammy is the ghost of the listener's failure.
He's the version of you that decided to watch Netflix instead of studying.
Okay, so that's promise 1. I will learn English, then I will exercise tomorrow. Standard stuff. But the third one is where it shifts from just a schedule to a whole philosophy. He says, I will change my life tomorrow.
That phrase is the trap.
It's so big. Change my life.
It's too big. And notice the shift in the grammar there. I scroll is present tense. It's concrete. And action, I will change, is future tense. It's abstract. It's a fantasy.
And it's interesting he pairs change my life with tomorrow. Why not I will change my life now?
Because now is for scrolling. Now is tired. Now has inertia. The brilliance of the tomorrow trap is that it lets you feel the emotional relief of the decision without paying the price of the action.
How so?
When Sammy says, I will exercise tomorrow, he actually gets a little dopamine hit. He feels like a person who exercises.
But he hasn't done a single push-up.
Hasn't moved a muscle. But his brain credits him for the intention. He outsources the suffering to tomorrow Sammy, and in his head, tomorrow Sammy is a superhero. Tomorrow Sammy isn't tired from work. Tomorrow Sammy has infinite willpower.
But today Sammy just wants to check Instagram.
And today Sammy is the only one who actually exists. That's the whole problem.
This is where the text just drops the hammer. It follows up his promises with this brutal forward sentence. It just says, but tomorrow never comes.
It's a cliche, right? We hear that all the time.
Yeah, some bumper stickers, it's usually cheesy. But in this context, reading it in that simple, stark English, it hit differently. Why does it land so hard here?
Because the story strips away all the romance of it. Usually when we hear tomorrow never comes, it's meant to be inspiring, carpe diem. Seize the day.
A rallying cry.
Yeah. Here, it's not a rallying cry. It's a statement of physics. It's a structural reality of Sammy's world. When he wakes up, it isn't tomorrow. It's just today again.
It's the movie Groundhog Day, but without any of the jokes.
And without the magic. He wakes up and he is still the same Sammy, with the same fatigue, the same phone, the same routine. The tomorrow Sammy he was counting on to save him, he never showed up because he doesn't exist.
And because he doesn't exist, the cycle just repeats. The text says, weeks pass.
That to me is the horror element of the story. Weeks pass.
It's so casual.
It implies this incredible speed. It implies that while Sammy was waiting for some magical start date to arrive, huge chunks of his life just evaporated. The scrolling ate the weeks.
It reminds me of what you said earlier about the brain not making new memories. If every day is the same, then a week feels like a day. A month feels like a week.
And that's the illusion in the title. The illusion isn't just that tomorrow will be better. The illusion is that you have an infinite supply of tomorrows.
Right.
Sammy spends his time as if he has a million years. He treats today like it's a disposable wrapper he can just throw away to get to the candy inside, which is tomorrow. But the wrapper is all there is.
I want to go back to this idea of the simple English acting as a mirror. You said complex language lets us hide. Can you unpack that a bit more?
Sure. If this were a 300-page novel, we would get Sammy's whole backstory. We'd know about his childhood trauma. We'd know his boss is a jerk. We would have a million reasons to excuse his inaction.
We'd intellectualize it.
We would. We'd say, well, it's not really his fault he's scrolling. The algorithm is predatory.
Which is true.
It is true. But it's also a distraction from the immediate reality. By stripping all that context away, the simple English forces you to look at the raw mechanic of the behavior. Stimulus, boredom, response, phone, result, life wasted. It doesn't let you negotiate.
It's so binary. You are either doing the thing or you are not. You are either learning English or you are silent. You are either changing your life or you are scrolling.
And the simplicity removes all that nuance we usually use to forgive ourselves.
That's why it feels like an attack.
It is an attack. It's an attack on our excuses.
So let's talk about the ending, or the lack of one. The story doesn't really resolve. It just says weeks pass, and that's kind of it.
It just leaves Sammy in the loop. Forever.
I kept waiting for the paragraph where it says, but then, on a Tuesday, Sammy threw his phone in the river and started a bakery.
We crave that narrative. We want the redemption arc. But if the story gave us that, it would betray its own message. If Sammy eventually saved himself by magic, the listener would just think, oh, phew, it'll happen for me eventually too.
By leaving him stuck, it puts the burden on us, the reader.
Exactly. The story is a tragedy about a man who waits for a bus that never comes. If you want a happy ending, you have to close the podcast and go create it in your own life. Yeah. Sammy can't do it. He's just ink on a page. He is doomed to scroll forever.
That is heavy for an ESL podcast.
The best lessons usually are.
So we have this pretty bleak picture. We have the trap of tomorrow, the anesthetic of scrolling, the compression of time. What's the antidote? What is the text actually suggesting we do?
Well, if the poison is tomorrow,
the antidote has to be now.
Radical immediacy. The text mocks, I will change my life tomorrow. So the inverse has to be true. Meaningful change can only happen in the present tense.
But change my life is still too big, right? You can't just change your life in a single second.
No, but you can change the action. You can break the loop. The text focuses so heavily on the scrolling, that's the weak link in the chain.
So the antidote is just don't pick up the phone.
It's that simple and that hard. When dinner is done and that urge to disconnect hits and the hand reaches for the pocket, just stop.
And then what? Just sit there in the silence.
Yes, sit in the silence. The text implies that Sammy scrolls to avoid feeling the sameness of his days. If he stopped scrolling, he would feel the full weight of that boredom, and it would be painful.
But that pain is the only thing that would actually motivate him to learn English or exercise.
You have to feel the symptom to treat the disease. The scrolling just masks the symptom. If you are comfortable, you will never move. The phone makes the cage comfortable. Put the phone down and the cage becomes unbearable. And then you might actually try to break the lock.
It's funny, the story is called The Illusion of Tomorrow, but it really could have been called The Reality of Today.
That's effectively the same thing, isn't it? To see the illusion is to accept the reality.
So to wrap this up, what's the final thought for everyone listening? We've analyzed the text, we've diagnosed the problem.
I want to challenge the listener to identify their Sammy habit.
The one thing they're acting like Sammy about.
Right. We all have one. Maybe you're great at your job, but you're a Sammy about your health. You say, I'll start running when the weather gets better. Or you're great at fitness, but you're a Sammy about your relationships. I'll call my mom when work slows down.
And the text is telling us, the weather won't get better. Work won't slow down.
The conditions will never be perfect. The you of tomorrow will be just as tired and just as busy as the you of today.
So the question is, if you knew for a fact that help isn't coming, if you knew that tomorrow you is a lie, what would you do differently in the next 10 minutes?
Not next week, not tomorrow morning, in the next 10 minutes before the loop resets itself.
Weeks pass. The story warns us. Weeks pass whether you use them or not.
Don't let them just pass.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Put the phone down. We'll see you next time.